Hello Internet and welcome to Commander 101. In this episode we'll be talking about creating a package of cards. So let's start with obvious thing first and figure out what exactly is a package. Simple definition would go along the lines of this. Package is a bundle of cards that synergize with each other, providing an advantage in a very specific way. As far as abstract concepts go, this one isn't so bad to understand. We take a bunch of cards that do something with each other, press them together, and done. We have some kind of package. But that's kind of vague. This means it's time for example. The first step is quite simple. We need a theme, or rather a goal that we want to achieve with our bundle of cards. And for this video I decided to make something rather generic that can work with many different decks. Jeskai Artifacts Value Train. The goal of this package will be to provide advantage in form of card draw, targeted removal, disposable creatures and access to some interaction toolbox. Now that we have a clear goal, we need to figure out the core of our creation. In this case we'll be focusing on 3 cards: Oswald Fiddlebender, Emery Lurker of the Loch, and finally Weapons Manufacturing. Each of those cards can be called a build-around, but they care about the same type of permanents, so we can capitalize on that. But first, let's take more detailed look at each of those cards. Starting from Weapons Manufacturing. This is our shiny new toy from Edge of Eternities. It's an enchantment for 1 generic and 1 red mana that creates a munitions token when the non-token artifact enters the battlefield under our control. As far as artifact token go, munitions by itself are not so great. It deals 2 damage when it leaves play, but has no built-in way to sacrifice itself. The potential of this card is quite obvious, but it needs supports in 2 aspects. We need to have a steady supply of non-token artifacts, and we need a way of sacrificing the tokens. We can solve the second issue with Oswald, so it is his time in the spotlight. Our pal Fiddlebender is a 2/2 for 1 generic and 1 white mana. With an ability that for a cost of 1 white mana, tapping him and sacrificing an artifact allows us to search our library for an artifact card with mana value equal to 1 plus mana value of the artifact that we sacrifice for this ability. This is by itself a very useful tool to have at our disposal. It also works great with Weapons Manufacturing. Not only this allows us to sacrifice our munitions token, triggering its ability, but also searches our library for another non-token artifact that enters the battlefield, and that gives us another munitions token. From here we can go up the chain, sacrificing our newly fetched 1-drop artifact and turning it into a 2-drop, or just get another 1-drop artifact by sacrificing another munitions token. Oswald in some way allows us to increase the number of artifacts at our disposal, but we mostly exchange one into another. And that's the cue for Emery, Lurker of the Loch. A simple 1/2 merfolk wizard that costs 2 generic and 1 blue mana to cast. At least on paper, since she has affinity for artifacts. So usually you just cast her for 1 blue mana. She also mills 4 cards from your library when entering the battlefield. And her second ability allows us to cast an artifact spell from the graveyard, which works great with Oswald. He can put the artifact in the graveyard while searching for a different one. And after that, Emery allows us to put the artifact back to the battlefield. I think it's quite clear how those 3 cards work with each other. They allow us to accumulate resources. We can reuse cards from our graveyard, fetch them from the library directly, and we also get additional stuff in the form of munitions token each time we do something with the other 2. Okay, we have the core of our package covered. Now we need some artifacts that will make those 3 cards unleash some unspeakable value. I'll try to limit this to cards that are light on the wallet, but add some honorable mentions at the end for those who like to bash things with money. Let's start with a pair of 2 0-drops. Mishra's Bubble and Tormod Script. Bubble is kind of staple for artifact decks. For good reason. It gives us information and card draw on use. Crypt, on the other hand, is a very flexible targeted graveyard hit. Since our plan involves abuse of that game zone, we don't want some symmetrical effect. Those 2 cards are perfect for Emery in the early game, when we don't have much mana. Using them and later casting from graveyard using Emry's ability is just pure value, especially if weapons manufacturing is on the field. They can also allow us to start going up the chain with Oswald if we don't currently have any artifact tokens lying around. Now we have some very nice 1-drops to talk about. Quick disclaimer, I am not counting Soul Ring or other universally good artifacts as a part of this package. Those can find place in almost any deck, and are just bonus value that this set of cards can provide. So, moving on to the actual inclusion on the list. Chromatic Star allows us to color fix our mana with its ability. That may be relevant in some cases. But the important part of this card is the draw a card trigger when it enters graveyard from play. It's a perfect stepping stone for Oswald on his way from Munitions token to 2-drops. And it's quite easy to cast from graveyard with Emry. Our second 1-drop slot is occupied by Duskrow's Reliquary. It's a temporary removal for artifacts or creatures, and it's quite hard to get rid of thanks to its Ward 2 ability. Surprisingly, with this package, its additional cost can be an upside rather than a downside. We'll be quite happy to sacrifice Munitions token to cast it, be it from a hand or a graveyard. Now, let's go up the chain to the section of 2-drop artifacts. Starting with our Army in a Can enabler, Legion Extruder. For 1 and a red, we get an artifact that deals 2 damage to any target when it enters the battlefield. We are, however, more interested in its second ability. For 2 generic mana, tapping the Legion Extruder and sacrificing an artifact, we create a 3/3 colorless golem artifact creature. This makes Legion Extruder an absolute nightmare to attack into. If we have a Munitions token lying around, making a 3/3 blocker while dealing 2 damage at instant speed, it's not something people want to do in combat. The next 3 cards fall into a very similar category, providing piles of value. Cryogen Relic, Ichor Wallspring and Mycosynth Wallspring trigger their effect when they enter and leave the battlefield. The first 2 gives us cards. The last one tutors a basic land card to our hand from the library, which makes them the perfect target for our value train. Let's take a look at this example play pattern. We sack a 1-drop artifact to Oswald's ability and fetch Cryogen Relic on the battlefield. This triggers not only weapons manufacturing, that gives us munition token, but also draws us a card with relic trigger. After that, we sack the relic to Legion Extruder, resulting in additional card and a 3/3 golem creature. Finally, we tap Emry to cast relic from the graveyard, which gives us additional card and additional munitions token. In total we get 2 munitions token, 1 golem token and 3 cards. That's just pure value. And if we're stuck on lands, we can just switch our Oswald target to Mycosynth Wellspring and tutor 3 basics instead. This setup already can just outgrind your opponents if they don't use resources to stop you. But we can go one step further. We'll finish this example package with 2 3-drop artifacts. One of them is Repurposing Bay. Dab, a birthing pod for artifacts, is basically a backup Oswald. That allows us to double our munition sacrificing ability and fetching artifact directly into the battlefield. The other one is Sculpting Steel, which enters as a copy of any artifact on battlefield. It can be a second Legion Extruder, another Repurposing Bay, or any artifact of our opponents that makes us jealous. This brings the total number of cards in this package to 13, which is not small, but you can still squeeze it in most decks that care about artifacts in those colors. Not to mention the fact that those cards still work if you don't have all the pieces. Value train is hard to stop. At the start of the video, I've teased some honorable mentions for those who have much more flexible budget for overpriced cardboard. So here we go. You should really try to squeeze Mox Opal, Lotus Petal and Simulacrum Synthesizer here. It will boost the power and synergy to very stupid levels. And this will be all for this video. It's rather on the shorter side, but I'm testing some stuff, including new recording setup. So drop me a comment below with some feedback about that. There should be a link to the Moxfield package in the description. If I forgot to put it there, just scream at me until I add it. Like, share, subscribe and all the YouTube things. And if you have any topic that you would like highlighted here, just let me know. See ya in the next one.